It was fun for him, I think.
I regretted it the moment I did it.
Hi, my name's Leo, and this is the Philip DeFranco Show. Let's get you filled in. Today's video is a part of my Traveling to Japan playlist. It is going to be a discussion on when my family and I went to the art exhibit known as TeamLab Borderless in Tokyo, Japan. Before I get into that video, I do want to take a moment and say thank you so much to all the new subscribers who have joined. Between last week's video and what I'm sharing here today, I made a video where I reviewed the hoodie that I purchased from Shane Dawson's merch, and that was received really well. Truthfully, because of the clickbaity name with the title having Shane in there, I figured it'd probably get 100 views, not 10,000 views. To those of you who have joined since then, hope that you find this content amusing or you enjoy what you see. If not, thanks for sticking around for the one video. I went to Japan in March of 2019. Prior to going on the trip, we looked up things to do. I recommend having a plan when you go to another country. I think that that's a bit obvious, yet you'd be surprised how many people go visit new places that are often expensive to get to and sort of just figure it out while they're there. TeamLab is an art exhibit that we had seen online. I think it was shared through Facebook and Instagram. Oftentimes it's the imagery of the person standing with a whole bunch of lights and it creates a galaxy effect. We wanted to go there as on social media it was hyped to be this really amazing experience. We did go to TeamLab on the same day that we visited Pallet Town in Odaiba from last week's video. When we got to TeamLab, it was about 11:30 in the morning. There was already a massive line outside, as you see in this picture. From where we were at in the line, I expected it was going to be a couple of hours to get into the exhibit. However, it only took 30 minutes before we were at the front getting ready to go in. I've shared my thoughts on this a few times throughout these videos that Japan loves having lines within lines. We waited in the line outside, we got into another line, and then you ultimately end up in a third line before you get to go in and explore. Once you're congregated in that third grouping, the staff for TeamLab come out and they talk to you both in English and Japanese, and they tell you what you're about to experience. There is a kinetic side to it where there's a lot of you feel, you touch, it's a lot of sensory. And there's a second part which is all about visual experiences. Outside, before they let you go in and just separate out and you get to go whichever path you want, there's even secret hidden rooms, which I think we found one of them. There's a little sign that says wander, explore, and discover. I loved that so much that I put that on, I made a vinyl with my Cricut and I put that on my laptop because that's a mantra that has carried with me. If I over-explain some of the images that I'm showing, forgive me, I want to make sure that I'm being clear in what you're seeing because I know that pictures don't always capture what actually went on. We chose to go to the visual route first, rather than going to the adventure or the kinetic side. The first room that we walked into, there were sunflowers, all light projected on the walls. There was butterflies that were flying. It looked like it was sort of I wouldn't say one-dimensional because it was projecting sort of a 3D experience, but it didn't look interactive. Throughout the area with the sunflowers and the butterflies, there were also smaller rooms that had murals that were made up of tiny little squares, almost like a stained glass window, and those would change if you stayed in there long enough. Once you got past the murals and got past the sunflowers, we got to an area that was really wide and open. It had a lot of the same floral designs in there with the lighting. It was actually interactive. I don't know what the schedule is, if it's every 10, 15, 30 minutes, even an hour, to where the lighting and the designs change. I know that it went from being a very floral, airy, sort of whimsical styling to having dark characters, which I don't know what they translate or mean. They were sort of floating throughout the exhibit, and as you can see in the video I'm about to share, when my daughter touched it, there was a reaction. Once we left the big open space, which it had sort of not a mountain or a hill, but it had a stage that gradually rose up. You had to be careful because it's really dark in the exhibit. Once you walk up toward the top of it, you can turn around and that's when sort of all lights are on you, and it almost looks like you're in a jungle of lights, if you want to call it that. There was no guided tour involved with this exhibit. It was a very large, free space. I think we called it, and others even called it, sort of a Disney art exhibit because it was massive. There was a lot of people in there, and there was no one really to chauffeur you or guide you. You also, once you paid to get in there, could stay in there all day if you wanted to. When we entered the dark hallway, it would have been really easy to lose the group because it was pitch black. I mean, there was very subtle lighting that was throughout the hall. You could maybe see a little bit down the ways, but you had no idea if there was going to be turnoffs, if there was going to be other exits. There was one section which was sort of a resting spot. There were restrooms, vending machines, and seating. Tatum took a nap, so I think that if you end up ever going to that exhibit or something of that liking, it's family friendly to have a spots where you can have your kids nap, so instead of sort of pushing them through and making them exhausted, they can recharge and then get up and enjoy the rest of it. In this picture here, there was in the hallway, they started to form sort of trees with the lights, and we thought it would be cool to just get a picture, hit our faces. Beside the resting spot, when we decided to go back out, there was this secret room, which was the ocean room. I think that was one of my favorite spots in the exhibit. It was very isolated. There was not a ton of people in there. I'm not sure if a lot of people maybe explored that far down in that specific direction. It was very peaceful, very tranquil. I think that as fake sounding as maybe it is, the art exhibit, whether it was the ocean room or being in the whimsical forest of light or the sunflowers and butterflies, or even later I'll talk about the kinetic or the adventure part of it, it touched on a lot of human emotions, and there was a great sense of tranquility and just peace in that ocean room. If you're someone who enjoys listening to ambient sounds and noises while you go to sleep, that's what that room is. Afterwards, we made our way to the social media room, where it was the lights that were hanging from the ceiling. It was very trippy. I could not imagine going into that place not sober, I guess is how YouTube would like for me to say that, because it already was trippy enough to be in there with all the mirrors. They had a lot of rules, and they also had a lot of restrictions for kids going into the room with all the lights hanging, because they don't want people to touch them. Easily you could snap one off. I'm sure it's expensive to replace that. While we were in there, it was not a galaxy theme. Instead, it was rain falling, which was really pretty. I don't know what clips I caught. I know that I have a few pictures I'm going to show you guys, such as, I'll blow this one up over here. In this picture where we're all looking down, it sort of gives you an idea of the mirror effect, to where it was up and down and it just looked like the lights were endless. When the rain was falling, it would start from the top and just trickle down. Then there would be thunder sounds. This was absolutely the most packed part of the exhibit. There was a lot of people who were in there trying to have that Instagram moment. I know that online it shows, there's a lot of pictures of like one person, for example, standing in there and just having all the lights around them. I don't know if it's edited, because I imagine that'd be really difficult to edit, or if it was more promotional material. It's not feasible or likely that you would be able to go to this exhibit and get a picture by yourself, because it was so packed. Even trying to get a picture with just myself and another person, there were other people in it. If you like the story of Rapunzel, specifically Disney's version Tangled, then this next room is something you would absolutely love. It was a room filled with lanterns. There was a queue outside to get into the room, just once again because of the busyness, because of the social media. I almost wish that the line to get inside the rain falling room would have had a better queue as well, just to sort of limit how many people get to share in that experience together. The lanterns, the staff there were very on point and quick. I think you got 2 to 3 minutes once you were allowed inside the room to just wander and take some pictures. It was I think it's called a one-sided mirror or two-sided. Essentially, the people outside in the queue could see you inside. If you're acting a mess, they'll see you. It was cool to be on the inside, because on the inside, again, it just looked like, and you'll see in the pictures I'm sharing, that it has that mirror effect to where it looks like the lanterns are just seemingly endless. Next up was an Avatar experience, and it was Avatar, the blue people, the Na'vi, not Avatar Last Airbender. We walked in, and you start sort of underground, it feels like, and you walk up, and there's these mushroom circles or dandelion, maybe they're meant to be more of a flower, that you sort of walk out and you end up on a hill. It feels like, obviously it's man-made and it's a part of the room. It feels like you're on a hill just looking down and surrounded with all these different mushrooms or flowers, and you get to wade through them, and you can bump into them and touch them. It's a bit impossible not to because you're sort of walking through a field. But that was really pretty. Taking it back a quick second, while Tatum was sleeping, I was hanging out with her in that sort of rest area that I described outside the dark hallway, but also outside the ocean room. I believe it was Sal and Erica. They went and they found another experience within TeamLab, and it was a tea drinking experience. And you had to pay extra to do this. I think it ended up being 500 yen a person, maybe 10 or maybe 1,000 yen, which is equivalent to $5 or $10. I recommend doing it. I thought it was really pretty. Again, it just really spoke to the soul. I don't know if that sound is gonna come across sounding cliche or fake or disingenuous. It felt great. I don't know what else to say. It felt very spiritual to just witness the sort of creativity and the sort of art that was developed with just light and sort of simple gestures. To get up to the tea drinking spot, there was a lot of stairs to climb. It felt like it was dark too, so it felt kind of endless, but there was a lot of stairs and a lot of people, and there was not a ton of space either. Being the foreigner who is a bit larger, it was really fun to just bump into every single person and continually just say sumimasen, which means excuse me or pardon me. Once we got to the area for the tea drinking experience, we went up, and it honestly kind of sounds like I'm talking about a drug experience. The way I've done it, it's like ayahuasca. It's not. You go up to the gentleman and you pick the card for what type of tea you want. I think I drank like chamomile or something. They go prepare it for you, they sit you down, and they bring out, as you'll see in some clips and pictures, they bring it out in a bowl. I should have said this maybe at the beginning of the video. I would probably watch this in a dark space if you can, simply because TeamLab was so dark that it may be difficult to see pictures, at least see them very well. They bring you out the bowl, and there's roses in it. As you start to sip, the roses slowly go away. I have no idea what technology they have to capture that, because it does recognize when you're running out of liquid, the flower just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. You can sort of play with it. If you take the bowl and you move it, then the petals all fly away, but then they come back. Super yummy. It was really pretty. It was worth whatever I ended up paying for it. We then moved on from the visual experience to the adventure or the kinetic side. When you walked out into the area, the ground itself is not stable. I'm honestly sort of surprised that they got that approved. I imagine Japan's not as heavy-handed with restrictions as maybe America would be, because I could see a whole lot of people, certainly, and this isn't to be rude to anyone, but people with disabilities or who have a struggle with walking, that would have been very hard. It's dark to begin with, really dark, and the ground is just, I can't even describe it, it's not level at all. Certainly no one was running around, kids were running around. There were these big, massive balloons of air, at least that's what it looked like to me. I feel like, if you know who Baymax is from Disney's Big Hero 6, I feel like if you were to touch a real Baymax, that's what he would have felt like. It was a thick vinyl with just air blown in it and colors. I don't know if you're supposed to hit each other with it, but we sort of like pop them around because why not? It's fun. There was a section where Sal, and I'm trying to figure out how to describe it, go along this adventure with me for a second. There was sort of a jungle of ropes that had like the lily pad bottom that you could stand on. It was meant for you to climb around in and out of. It was dark and they were very slippery. I didn't even try it because I was afraid I was gonna break it, to be quite honest with you. Sal did it and he did it pretty well. You gotta realize you're not the only people there though. There were several times that kids gave no care that he was on one. They just dove for it. I mean, I don't think it was rude or anything absurd. It was like a very, very intimately shared space. It was fun for him, I think.
I regretted it the moment I did it.
He says that. I think he had fun. Next up, there are two very similar stations in the kinetic side. There's a lizard version, and then there is sort of an aquatic tank version to where you can draw a picture, whatever you want that picture to be. It needs to be appropriate, so don't be crude. Even if you're a foreigner, don't try and be silly and slide in some inappropriate words, because I'm pretty sure they're smarter than you. They will take what you're drawing and then it gets projected up into the tank. I think I have a clip. If so, I'll make sure I either play it here or here in a second of Tatum's drawing. I think it was a squid, right? A squid. And
Yeah,
it was just swimming throughout the tank, and that was cool. I mean, if I was a kid, I would have loved that. I could see myself being like 5 or 6 again and thinking that's just the coolest thing ever.
I put it on my story.
With TeamLab, we walked around a little more. We went and previewed again our favorite spots before we decided to head out. My final thoughts with TeamLab is that it was life-changing. No, it added to my life a lot. The sort of subtle moments of listening to the ambient music with the subtle shifts of the light, seeing yourself interact with your surroundings in a way that you normally are not accustomed to was really nice. I mean, there was a piece, I think, of the soul that really was catered to in that. If you're going to Japan and the TeamLab Borderless is something you want to go through, make sure you buy your tickets ahead of time. The tickets do sell out. That was my time in TeamLab Borderless. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It would absolutely be probably top 2 experiences that I had while in Japan. The top experience will be shared in my next video talking about Asakusa and Ikebukuro. TeamLab Borderless was just bar none. Is it par none or bar none? I don't know. It was really great.
I think it's bar none.
Bar none? Okay, well I said par none.
Well, you're wrong.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch something I create. I genuinely do appreciate it. I will be posting a new video next week on Tuesday. I'm also going to be posting a subscription box review on Halloween, which I believe is going to be it's obviously the 31st. I think it's a Thursday this year. I typically put up videos on Tuesday, and I will see you guys then. Take care. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye. I think I'm just so nervous right now that anything I say.
Yeah, I don't know why you're so nervous.
Because I'm not putting this in there. Like, I doubled in subscribers, and I'm like, I don't know, like, are these people gonna get pissed that like I'm talking about this shit and not Shane Dawson? Like, I'm not gonna be one of those drama channels.
I think, first of all, I think that people like Japan as much as they like Shane Dawson, and I think that you'll be fine. Who knows?Maybe, honestly, if it makes you feel better, maybe people subscribing aren't even gonna watch any of your other videos. So that makes you feel better, sure.
I mean, I guess I care and I don't care. Like, obviously I don't think like any of it has to do with my worth or value as a human, but.
No, I know, but you still but you care enough to give good content.
Yeah, exactly. I also don't like letting people down.